Hello dear aspirants, I am your Srinivas sir, and in this video I am going to talk about the concept of the pedagogy of English language. Dear aspirants, at present all the examinations related to teacher recruitment test in English language, we have a pedagogy of English language and we also have the methodology of English language. For example, if you look at the examinations like PGT and TGT, this part is there with the title Pedagogy of English Language, and when we look at the examinations like JL and DL, we have the part English Language Teaching, and when it comes to the examination School Assistant English, we have the title of Methodology of Teaching English. So dear aspirants, today we are going to learn some points about the concept methodology of English language or pedagogy of English language. So we will be talking about some questions on this topic which will be highly helpful for us for all the English examinations. So here I have carefully selected some of the previous questions from the concept of pedagogy or methodology of English language, and we are going to discuss the answers to them, and we will also be talking about the important segments in the examination. And now let us look at the very first question. The very first question is, if a test measures what it claims to measure, it is called. If a test measures what it claims to measure, it is called. This is the question based on the concept of evaluation. If you look at the pedagogy of English in PGT, TGT, such questions are expected. Even the SGT or School Assistant Examination methodology of English is there. In that test also we will expect such kind of questions. And even in JL and DL examinations, we expect these kind of questions. Now, the question is on the qualities of a good test. This question comes as a part of the evaluation, and the question is on the qualities of a good test. So, if a test measures what it claims to measure, it is called. First option is valid, second option practical, third one is reliable, and the fourth one is subjective. So dear aspirants, here we have to remember the quality of a good test, which includes validity. So validity refers to if a test measures what it is intended to measure, we call it validity. That test is called valid. For example, let us take one general example and then let us take one example related to our English language. For example, you are conducting a test on the skill of cooking. You are conducting a test on the skill of cooking. So the question should cover only on the concept of cooking a particular recipe or dish. For example, in a test on cooking, a question was asked like, what is the price of a rice cooker? What is the price of a rice cooker? So the test is on cooking, but the question is on the price of a rice cooker. So is there any correlation between the question and that objective? No. So the question should be on the skill of cooking, but here instead of the skill of cooking, the question is based on the price of a rice cooker. It means this question is not testing what it is intended to measure. So that is the reason this question is not valid. So validity means a test should test what it is intended for. Okay, for example, in a test in driving, a question is asked on what is the weight of a car. What is the weight of a car is asked in a test on driving. Here, dear aspirants, remember this question, what is the weight of a particular car, does not have any relation with the skill of driving. So that is the reason this question also does not have validity. So that is the reason we should say a test should test what it is intended to measure. When it comes to language, a test on grammar should test only the skill of grammar, only test the knowledge of the grammar. For example, if a test on grammar tests vocabulary, then the test becomes not valid. The test lacks validity. For example, a student passed the examination spoken English test with 100% of the marks, but in real life the student is unable to speak a few sentences. So actually he passed the spoken English test with 100% marks, but in reality he is unable to speak even a few sentences. It means that test has not measured what it was intended for. So that is the reason we can call it not valid. So here, if a test measures what it intended to measure, that test is known as valid. So validity is one of the major qualities of a good test. Every test should have validity. If there is validity, there will be reliability for the test. So the answer to this question is valid. Valid is the question. For example, you are writing a teacher recruitment examination in English. For example, in this English pedagogy or English methodology, a question on some Chinese language was asked. That question becomes not valid. That question becomes not valid. Okay, so this is one of the important things here. For example, you are attending a spoken test, okay, spoken skill test or spoken language test. In that spoken language test, if you are asked to write a few sentences with grammatical acceptance, the test lacks validity, because a skill on speaking, a test on speaking skill should test only the speaking skill only, not the writing skill. Such kind of test is known as valid. It consists of validity. So this is the first question, dear aspirants. A test should test what it is intended for. And let us look at the second question. This question is about the audiolingual method, which we also call as the army method. Audiolingual method, or we also call it the army method. And 4 questions are given on the audiolingual method. The very first one, statement A. In audiolingual method, language learning is a process. Language learning is a process of habit formation. So that is the first one. Spoken form is presented before written form. Translation or use of the native language is discouraged. Students infer the rules of the language through practice. These are the 4 statements about the skill in the audiolingual method. So this method is also known as audiolingual method, which mainly focuses on the skills of listening and speaking. Listening and speaking. And students learn in this method through repetition and reinforcement. Dialogue is presented to the students through a tape recorder or through a teacher. Students listen to that particular dialogue and they keep on repeating in chorus and in individually, and then they utter or then they produce some similar sentences. So listening to a text or listening to a dialogue, repeating it and then using it. So repetition and reinforcement are there, 2 things are there in this audiolingual method, and this audiolingual method is based on the behavioristic approach or behavioristic theory which was suggested by Skinner. Okay, so let us try to find out what those 4 sentences, if those sentences are correct or wrong. The very first one is, in audiolingual method, language learning is a process of habit formation. Yes, this is right one, because this approach, audiolingual method, is based on the behavioristic approach. So that is the reason in behaviorism also habit formation process is there. So that is the reason the first statement is the correct one. First one is the correct one. Second one, spoken form is presented before written form. This is also a correct statement about the behavioristic approach or the audiolingual method, because in audiolingual method a dialogue is presented first and the students practice, imitate, repeat and then they utter. So spoken form is first and then comes the written form. So this is also right statement about this particular audiolingual method. Third statement, translation or use of native language is discouraged. It is also a correct statement, because in audiolingual method, translation or use of translation into mother tongue or use of mother tongue is completely discouraged. So mother tongue is banished completely from the classroom. So that's the reason third statement is also incorrect about the audiolingual method. And look at the fourth statement, students infer the rules of the language through practice. This is also right. This is also correct. So students often engage in repeating and drilling. So through repetition, they infer the rules of the language. So rules are not taught separately. The rules of the language are taught to the children through inductive method. Inductive method of teaching grammar is there in this method, and that's the reason, dear aspirants, here students infer the rules after practicing, okay? Through a thorough practice, students infer the rules of the language, and that's the reason in this method only, during this period only, the language lab was introduced for the first time. The language lab was introduced for the first time during this audiolingual method only. So that's the reason fourth one is also right answer. So the right statements about the audiolingual method from these are four are correct. A, B, C and D. Four statements are correct. This is about the audiolingual method. So dear aspirants, here we need to remember some of the points that are related to the audiolingual method. The very first one is audiolingual method was also known as an army method. Second one, in this method students learn through repetition and reinforcement. Repetition and reinforcement. And this method is based on the behavioristic theory which was suggested by Skinner. And spoken form is presented first, then the written form comes. Okay, spoken form is first and then the written form. And here habit formation process, language learning is done through a habit formation process, and mother tongue is completely banished. Mother tongue is completely banished, and even the students infer the rules of the language through practice. Through practice, they infer, they understand, they grasp. This kind of learning grammar rules is known as inductive method. Inductive method, where examples are first, rules are secondary. Okay, and here the dialogue is presented to the students. Students listen to those dialogue and they repeat it, and they produce some similar sentences, right? So this is about the audiolingual method. This is the second question, and this question has the answer of A, B, C and D. This is one of the previous questions in the degree lecturers examination. So inta mundu jariginatvanti degree lecturer examination lo manaki ee question adagam jarigindi, right? Is this point clear to you? Now let's move on to the third question. Yeah, so the third question is about, in the functional view of language, speaking is regarded as. So dear aspirants, we have three views. One is structural view, and the second one is functional view, third one is interactional view. There are three views. Whenever we talk about languages, there are three views to learn a language. Three approaches are there to learn a language. One is the structural view, second one is interactional view, and third one is functional view. Structural, interactional and functional. And we will be talking about all these things in our regular class. But before that, let us try to answer this question. Right, what is the functional view? So we need to answer the question, what is the functional view of the language? So look at the options here. Conceptualized formulaic event. Conceptualized formulaic event. Second one, contextualized. It is conceptualized, and this is the contextualized communicative event. Monitored formulation. Situated automatic selection. So which is the right one about the concept of the functional view? So the functional view of the language is based on the contextualized communicative event. Contextualized communicative event. So here we should be able to communicate according to the context in which we are speaking, right? That's the reason this question has the second answer. Okay, functional view of language is regarded as a conceptualized communicative event, and we will be talking about this particular topic whenever we learn the concept, approaches, methods and techniques of teaching English language. Okay, this is the third question, dear aspirants. Here we have to learn three views of the language. One is the functional view, second one is interactional view, and third one is the structural view. Now let us look at the next question. The next question is on fourth question is on, yes, yeah, the audiolingual method. Again, the next question, fourth question is also on the audiolingual method. So far we discussed the concept of audiolingual method. Dear aspirants, now look at the next question. The next question is also on the audiolingual method. The audiolingual method works through. So how does the language audiolingual method works through? First one, interaction in the real world via hearing and speaking. Second one, habit formation through interaction with native speakers. Habit formation through repetition and reinforcement. Interaction with only teacher in a controlled environment. Now, which one do you think is the right answer for the question based on the information that we have learnt about the grammar or about the audiolingual method? So during the second question, we discussed some points about the audiolingual method, and from that information, it is evident, it is very clear that here the third one is the right answer. Audiolingual method works through habit formation through repetition and reinforcement. Repetition and reinforcement, which is based on Skinner's behavioristic theory. So that is the reason third one is the correct answer to this question. Third one is the correct answer. Okay, and the question is again on the concept of the audiolingual method. Dear aspirants, look at the fifth question. The fifth question is communicative language teaching, which is referred to as CLT, and which we also call it communicative approach. Communicative approach or communicative language teaching. So this question is on the communicative approach. Communicative language teaching is often seen as, so how do we see the communicative language teaching? Look at the first one, fixated on a grammatical accuracy and precision. So grammatical accuracy and precision. Second one, privileging the pursuit of fluency over accuracy, privileging the ability to translate precisely, ignoring the learner's everyday requirements. So we have to identify the right answer about the communicative language teaching, which we call the CLT or the communicative approach. Let us look at the right answer for this question. So basically, communicative approach or communicative language teaching is an approach towards the learning of a language which is based on the communicative needs of the learners. So it is based on the communicative needs of the learners. So let us try to identify the right answer for this question. Fixated grammatical accuracy and precision. So this is not at all the right answer. In the communicative language teaching, errors are not at all given priority, because errors are, it believes that, communicative approach believes that errors are the integral part of learning. Errors are the integral part of the learning, and teachers should be tolerant towards the errors made by the learners. Okay, so గుర్తుపెట్టుకోవాలి ఇక్కడ కమ్యూనికేటివ్ లాంగ్వేజ్ టీచింగ్లో ఎర్రర్స్ అనేటివి యాక్సెప్ట్ చేయబడతాయి అండ్ ఎర్రర్స్ అనేటివి లెర్నింగ్లో ఒక పార్ట్గా ట్రీట్ చేయబడతాయి అండ్ ఎర్రర్స్ అనే వాటిని టీచర్ వాటిని యాక్సెప్ట్ చేస్తూ ఉండాలని చెప్తుంది, రైట్? Dear aspirants, this is the reason we can say the first one is incorrect about the communicative approach, right? So fixated on grammatical accuracy and precision, this is not at all the right answer, because CLT does not emphasize on the grammatical accuracy. It emphasizes on communication. So first one is incorrect. Look at the second one, privileging the pursuit of fluency over accuracy. Dear aspirants, there are two important elements in learning a language. One is accuracy. One is accuracy. And second one is fluency. Okay, second one is fluency. These are the two important elements of spoken language, accuracy and fluency. Then which is considered more important when we learn a language? So when we learn a language, which one is important in these two? We have two things here. One is accuracy and the second one is fluency. But according to the linguist, accuracy is not so important. Fluency is important. So it is said that fluency is more important than accuracy. Fluency is more important than accuracy. So according to them, fluency is primary. Fluency is primary. Fluency, what do you mean by fluency? Fluency refers to speaking with intelligible. Okay, speaking intelligibly and speaking clearly. Okay, and this is called intelligible and fluency. And accuracy is secondary. Accuracy refers to, okay, speaking or using a language without committing any mistakes. So that's the reason, according to the CLT, accuracy is not so important. Fluency is more important. So privileging the pursuit of fluency over accuracy. So we give much privilege to the fluency but not accuracy. So that is the reason we need to choose the second one as the right answer. Then let us see why the third one is incorrect about this approach. Privileging the ability to translate precisely. Translation is not at all considered. It is not at an element of the communicative approach. So third one is incorrect. Ignoring the learner's everyday requirement. This is also incorrect because it includes or it gives priority to the communicative needs of the learners, the functional needs of the learners. So that is the reason fourth one is also incorrect. Second one is the right answer to this question, dear aspirants. And here communicative language teaching is one of the important questions. If you take any examination beginning from SGT to the degree lecturer examination, in almost all the examinations, one question is expected from the concept of the CLT or the communicative approach. So as a part of the communicative approach, we should learn the psychological theories behind this approach. We should know the background of the communicative approach, and we should know the assumptions that are there under the communicative approach, and we should know the persons who popularized this communicative approach, and we should know the different experiments that were conducted on communicative approach in India. We should know the experiments like N.S. Prabhu's Bengaluru project, and we should know the COST project, and we should know the CBSE project. All these are the projects that were conducted on the communicative approach in India. For example, N.S. Prabhu experimented this communicative approach with a group of students in Bengaluru. And finally, after the approach, he said that form is best learned when the meaning is best learned when the focus is on form and chepadu. Okay, meaning is best learned when the focus is on form. It means communication is best learned when we focus on form or grammar. So that was the finding of N.S. Prabhu in his Bengaluru project, and we should know the projects conducted by the government of West Bengal on communicative approach. We should also know about the project that was designed by the CBSE. So all these are the projects, and we should know the syllabus that is there, notional functional syllabus, which was suggested by Wilkins. Wilkins suggested the syllabus in this communicative approach, and we should know the role of the teachers, we should know the role of the students in this one, and as a part of this approach, we should know several language activities. Students engage in a lot of activities, communicative activities, and we should also include what are different kinds of activities that are done by the students, right? And we should know the merits of this communicative approach and demerits of the communicative approach also. So all these are the things that are to be learnt as a part of the communicative approach or the communicative language teaching. Right, dear aspirants, this is the fifth question and the most important concept. The audiolingual method, the structural method, the communicative method. These are the most important methods when it comes to the concept of the school assistant, PGT or TGT, even JL and DL examination. Hope you have understood the concept of this particular one. And now let us go to the sixth question, and the sixth question is on the status of English language in India, which is related to the first unit. Okay, ELT in India, ELT in India. So ELT refers to English language teaching in India. So let us see, in India, English is. What is English in India? The very simple answer is English is a second language in India. We call it ESL. ESL refers to English as a second language. But here the question is not that one. Let us see what the question is about. Look at the first question. In India, English is. First option, one of the languages used for many of the government. Wait. Okay. So one of the languages used for many of the government activities. This is true. English language is used for many of the government activities. Simple example, when your notification for Gurukula or school assistant or JL, DL is given, in which language is it given? Definitely that notification is issued using only English language. So that is the very best example for this. So from that one we can say that one of the languages used for the government is English. That is true statement. Statement A is right one. And look at the second one. The mother tongue of 52% of the population. So in India, English is the mother tongue of 52% of the population is incorrect statement. This is not a correct statement. So roughly there is a nearly 10 to 12% of the population in India that speak English language. But Hindi is the one of the important language which is used by almost 57% of Indian population. But this is not correct. 52% is not correct. So in India, English is not spoken by that much of percentage. It is spoken around 12% of the population in India. But remember, dear aspirants, India is one of the countries who uses. There are more number of English speakers in India than in any other country. Not in America, not in England, not in any other country. More English speakers are there only in India. So whatever it may be, the second one is incorrect because 52% of the population does not have English as mother tongue here. Okay, it is not even used by that number of people. One of the languages that enables communication among strangers. This is also right. For example, here one person from Kerala and one person from Delhi and one person from Telangana meet at one place and they do not know one another's language. He speaks Kannada language, imagine, he speaks Hindi language and he speaks Telugu language, and these three people do not know one another's language. Then they take the help of one common language, one link language. That common language, that link language which works as a bridge, okay, is known as the English language. English language. That is the reason English language is known as a lingua franca. What do we call it? Lingua franca. Lingua franca. Why do we call English as a lingua franca? Because it works as a common language, because it works as a link language, because it works as a bridge between the persons of different language backgrounds. That is the reason the third statement is correct. Third one is the right answer. And fourth one, the language of much of the trade and commerce. Yes, this is also true. English language is a language of trade and commerce in India. English language is a language of science and technology. English language is a language of medium of instruction. It is a language of mass media and communication. It is a language of travel and tourism also. So from that we can say the fourth one is also correct. Then out of these four statements, what are the correct statements? Statement A is correct, statement C is correct, statement D is also correct. A, C and D. A, C, D. So the fourth one is the right answer. A, C and D are the correct statements about the languages, the status of language in India. Dear aspirants, remember these things. These are the very important questions and we expect similar questions in the examination, especially in TGT, especially in PGT, JL and even DL examination also. Right. Let us look at the next question, that is the seventh question. The seventh question is on Which of the following is not necessary to produce linguistically acceptable utterances? I want to speak in a language which is accepted by everyone. Okay, which is linguistically accepted. అంటే ఎవరు కూడా లింగ్విస్టికల్గా భాషాపరంగా అందరూ ఈ భాష సరైనదే అని అనాలని మాట్లాడినప్పుడు ఎప్పుడు అంటారు చెప్పండి? ఓకే, చూడండి ఇక్కడ వెనెవర్ నాట్ నెసెసరీ, ఏది అవసరం లేదు అలా మాట్లాడడానికి. ఫొనాలజీ, ఆర్థోగ్రఫీ, గ్రామర్ అండ్ వొకాబులరీ. Dear aspirants, phonology is one of the important things because we should be able to utter the sounds properly. So that is required, that is necessary for spoken form. And second one, grammar is also necessary because here the question is linguistically acceptable. Whenever it is to be accepted linguistically, grammar is an essential part. And third one, vocabulary is also essential whenever we speak. So phonology, grammar and vocabulary are important, whereas orthography is not at all important. Orthography is not at all important. Orthography refers to the spelling. So spelling is not at all considered whenever we speak. Okay, but whenever we write, that orthography is important, and then phonology is not so important. But here utterances, spoken words are given. That's the reason orthography is not necessary whenever we want to speak. Right, dear aspirants, this is one of the questions that is related to the language skills, listening, speaking, reading and writing. And this question is on the speaking skill. This is the 7th question. And remember, whenever we learn methodology or pedagogy, we should focus on all these concepts. Most of the time, many aspirants blindly depend on some books. But dear aspirants, remember it, the questions these days will not be covered from any single book. We have to have a thorough command over this concept, and we have to understand the concepts of each and every topic. Then only we will be able to answer such kind of questions. For example, if we read the things that are there in a particular book and if we go to the examination, we will not be able to perform well. Okay, that is the reason we have to have a complete command. So this is the 7th question, and let us look at the 8th question, dear aspirants. And the 8th question is on, so the 8th question is on the main goal of teaching the skill of speaking is fluency. Okay, so fluency is one of the main goals of speaking. So what do you mean by the term fluency? What do you mean by the term fluency? So let us see. What do you understand by fluency? The ability to express in writing. So it is not the ability to express in writing. That is not at all correct one. The ability to express oneself intelligibly and accurately. So this is the right one. A person who is fluent will express the spoken words intelligibly, which means understood by others, and they produce it accurately. So intelligible and accurate language is nothing but fluency. And next one, the ability to speak quickly. So fluency does not refer to speaking quickly. Okay, speaking fast is not at all an element of fluency. And the ability to summarize and generalize, this is also not at all the important one. So one of the main goals of teaching the skill of speaking is fluency, and fluency refers to the ability to express oneself intelligibly and also accurately. Intelligibly and accurately. Intelligible means that is understood by each and everyone. Okay, when it comes to writing, legible. Writing should be legible, speaking should be intelligible. సో మనం రాసింది అర్థం చేసుకోవడాన్ని లెజిబిలిటీ అని చెప్పుకుంటాము, లెజిబుల్ అంటాము. మాట్లాడినది అర్థం చేసుకోవడాన్ని ఇంటెలిజిబుల్ అని చెప్పుకుంటాము, ఇంటెలిజిబుల్. సో రైటింగ్ అయితే లెజిబుల్ అండ్ నీట్గా ఉండాలి, అండ్ ఇక్కడనేమో ఇంటెలిజిబుల్గా ఉండాలి. సో దట్స్ ద రీజన్, డియర్ ఆస్పిరెంట్స్, రిమెంబర్ సెకండ్ వన్ ఈస్ ద కరెక్ట్ ఆన్సర్ టు దిస్ క్వశ్చన్ నెంబర్ 8. And let us look at the next question, that is question number 9. Right. The origins of English in India are usually traced back to, okay, traced back to dash. So we all know that it is Macaulay's Minute or Macaulay's Minutes, which was recorded on 2nd February 1835. So the famous Macaulay's Minutes was published on 2nd February 1835, and it is also known as the English Education Report, the report on Indian Education Commission. Right, dear aspirants, let us look at the 9th question now. The 9th question is on the origins of English in India are usually traced back to the origin of English language in India. So we all know that it is through Macaulay's Minute that English language was introduced officially into Indian education. And now here we all know that it is through Lord Macaulay, or we call it Thomas Babington Macaulay. Now the question is on the minute. We all know that it is the Macaulay's Minute or Macaulay's Minutes, and which was recorded on 2nd February 1835. But here if you look at the questions, all the options are almost similar. Right, dear aspirants, look at the first one. Macaulay's Minute on English Education in India, 1834. Second one, Macaulay's Minute on English Education in India, 1835. 1834, 1835. Two options are almost same. And Macaulay's Minutes on English Education in India, 1835. Macaulay's Minutes on English Education, 1834. So the options are quite similar, only S is different, dear aspirants. Which is a very common thing. You all know that it is 1835. So option 1 and option 4 are not at all right answers, because it was recorded on 2nd February 1835. But the only difference, dear aspirants, remember here Macaulay's Minute is given, here Macaulay's Minutes is given. Minute or minutes. So we should know the difference between the two terms. One is minute and second one is minutes. Okay, minute and minutes are the two words. So the very first one, minute, is the time. Okay, 1 minute we say. Okay, it is a unit of 60 seconds time. But the second one is also minutes. Minutes, it is also a noun. It means the important points that are taken down during a meeting. So that's the reason here it is not minute, it is known as minutes. Minutes of meeting we can. And that's the reason third one is the right answer, because minutes is there and 1835 is there. So third option is the right answer, and this is also one of the important questions that was asked in the earlier examinations. So see the difference here. So if we get the things by heart, we'll be losing the marks in this category. So that is the reason we should understand each and everything clearly. And one more thing that we need to understand is that if we refer to some books like academy books or some other books, we will not be able to cover all these questions. So in order to cover such kind of questions, we should have a thorough command over the subject. We should learn all the points from the holistic point of view. That's the reason we should learn such kind of things for the purpose of examination. Okay, dear aspirants. And here, if you look at the questions that I have taken, all these questions are the previous questions. All these questions were asked in previous PGT, TGT, JL and DL examinations. ఇవన్నీ కూడా గత ఎగ్జామినేషన్స్ లో అడిగినటువంటి క్వశ్చన్సే. మరి ఇవేవి కూడా మనకి ఎలాంటి అకాడమిక్ పుస్తకాల్లో కానీ లేదా ఇంకేం నోట్స్లో కానీ కనిపించవు. మరి మనం ప్రాపర్గా క్లాసెస్ వినడం ద్వారా అండ్ మంచి స్టాండర్డ్ ప్రామాణికంగా ఉండేటువంటి నోట్స్ చదవడం ద్వారా మాత్రమే ఇలాంటి క్వశ్చన్స్కి మనం ఆన్సర్ చేయగలుగుతాము. Right, dear aspirants, let us look at the last question. So far 9 questions were discussed, and we are going to talk about the next question and the last question, that is the question on the last one, Macaulay's speech. Again the question is on Macaulay's Minutes. Macaulay's speech claimed that a dash of good European library was worth the whole dash of India and Arabia. So this quotation was given by T.B. Macaulay when the society was linguistically divided into two groups. One group was known as Anglicists. Anglicists was the one group, and the second group was the Orientalists. So at that time, the society was divided into, the educationists were divided into two groups. One group is known as Anglicists. Okay, Anglicists is the first one, Anglicists. Okay, Anglicists. And the second one is the Orientalists. Orientalists is the second one. So the society or the educationists were divided into two things. Anglicists TB Macaulay comes under the Anglicist because he wanted to introduce English language into Indian education. Anglicist. So he said that we want a group of people who would be Indian in blood and color, but English in taste and opinions, in morals and intellect. So he said he wanted to introduce English education into India. But there is another group of people who are known as Orientalists, like H.T. Prinsep. Okay, H.T. Prinsep was one of the Orientalists. H.T. Prinsep. H.T. Prinsep, who was the Orientalist, strongly condemned the idea of T.B. Macaulay to introduce English language into Indian education. He said that Arabic or Sanskrit, the language like Arabic, Sanskrit, Persians are to be retained in Indian education. That was the opinion of the Orientalist like H.T. Prinsep. సో ఏ లాంగ్వేజ్ని ఇక్కడ మెకాలే యాంగ్లిసిస్ట్ అని చెప్పుకున్నామండి. అప్పుడు సొసైటీ అనేది ఎడ్యుకేషన్స్ రెండు రకాలుగా విడిపోయిందని చెప్పాను. ఒకటి యాంగ్లిసిస్ట్గా, రెండవది దేని రకంగా ఓరియంటలిస్ట్గా డివైడ్ చేయబడింది. సో మెకాలే లాంటి యాంగ్లిసిస్ట్స్ ఏం చెప్పారు, ఇంగ్లీష్ లాంగ్వేజ్ని ఇంట్రడ్యూస్ చేయాలని చెప్తే ఓకే హెచ్టి ప్రిన్సెప్ లాంటి వాళ్ళు అరబిక్, సాంస్క్రిట్, పర్షియన్ లాంగ్వేజ్ లాంటివి ఇంట్రడ్యూస్ చేయాలని చెప్పారు. సో మరి ఇందులో దీనికి రియాక్షన్గా ఇక్కడ టీబీ మెకాలే ఏం చెప్పాడంటే, ఇంగ్లీష్ మెకాలే స్పీచ్ క్లెయిమ్డ్ దట్ ఏ సింగిల్ షెల్ఫ్ ఆఫ్ ద గుడ్ యూరోపియన్ లైబ్రరీ వాజ్ వర్త్ ద హోల్ నేటివ్ లిటరేచర్ ఆఫ్ ఇండియా అండ్ అరేబియా. ఇండియా అండ్ అరేబియాలోని మొత్తం లిటరేచర్ కలిస్తే ఇంగ్లీష్ లిటరేచర్లోని ఒక షెల్ఫ్తో సమానం అని చెప్పాడండి. ఓకే, ఒక ఇంగ్లీష్ లిటరేచర్ ఉన్నటువంటి షెల్ఫ్ ఇండియాలోని మొత్తం లిటరేచర్, అరేబియాలోని మొత్తం లిటరేచర్కి ఈక్వల్ అవుతుందని మెకాలే చెప్తూ he exaggerated the importance of English language. ఇంగ్లీష్ లాంగ్వేజ్ యొక్క ప్రాముఖ్యతను గురించి చెప్పడానికి అతడు ఈ స్టేట్మెంట్ని ఇవ్వడం జరిగింది. అండ్ దిస్ వాజ్ వన్ ఆఫ్ ద జూనియర్ లెక్చరర్ ఎగ్జామినేషన్ క్వశ్చన్. గతంలో మన తెలంగాణలో జరిగినటువంటి జేఎల్ ఎగ్జామినేషన్లో అడిగినటువంటి క్వశ్చన్. ఇప్పుడు మనం చెప్పుకున్నటువంటి ఈ 10 క్వశ్చన్స్ కూడా గత ఎగ్జామినేషన్స్లో ఓకే పీజీటీ, టీజీటీ, జేఎల్ మరియు డిఎల్ ఎగ్జామినేషన్స్లో అడిగినటువంటి ప్రశ్నలే. సో మరి ఇలాంటి ప్రశ్నలకి మనం సమాధానం రాయాలంటే మనం ఏదో ఒక పర్టికులర్ బుక్ని లేదా మెటీరియల్ని చదివితే కాదు, ఓకే తరోగా మనం క్లాసెస్ వినడం ద్వారా, ప్రామాణికమైనటువంటి మెటీరియల్ చదవడం ద్వారా మాత్రమే ఆన్సర్ చేయగలుగుతాము. సో మరి మీ ప్రిపరేషన్ మనందరికీ తెలుసు. ఇప్పుడు రాయబోయేటువంటి ఏ ఎగ్జామ్ అయినా కూడా అందులో ఇంగ్లీష్ పెడగాలజీ లేదా ఇంగ్లీష్ మెథడాలజీ చాలా క్రూషియల్ రోల్ ప్లే చేస్తనే విషయం తెలుసు మనకి. మరి ఇంతటి ముఖ్యమైనటువంటి ఈ సబ్జెక్ట్ని మనం ఈ పాయింట్ ఆఫ్ వ్యూలో ఈ రకంగా మనం ఎప్పుడైతే డిస్కస్ చేసామో ఈ రకంగా చదివితే మాత్రమే రేపు ఎగ్జామినేషన్లో మంచి మార్క్స్ స్కోర్ చేయడానికి అవకాశం ఉంటుంది. సో ఫ్రెండ్స్, మరి ఈ సబ్జెక్ట్ని మీరు నేను చెప్పినటువంటి విధంగా ఆ కాన్సెప్ట్స్ని కవర్ చేస్తూ చదవండి. డెఫినెట్లీ యూ విల్ బి సక్సీడింగ్ ఇన్ యువర్ ఎగ్జామినేషన్స్. రైట్, ఐ విష్ యూ ఆల్ ద బెస్ట్.